Welcome to Season 5 of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast with Adina, Brian, Cris, and Steve, the biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy. The adventure is just beginning here at the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, and we invite you to come aboard the Starship Tangent. We know you'll enjoy the conversation, the laughter, the banter back and forth, and most of all, friends who love hanging out to talk about all things science fiction. Set your phasers to fun. Here we go.
Greetings, interstellar listeners of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. Buckle up, because we're time warping back to a film from, some might say, the fabulous 1980s. But before we do, make sure you do all the social media stuff and show us some love. Subscribe to us on your go-to podcast platform. Give us a thumbs up, a like, a retweet, or for the really ambitious among you, write up a dazzling review if your platform allows it. Okay, so let's get down to business, everybody. Have you ever heard of a movie from 1985 called Enemy Mine, starring Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr.? Now, I discovered it when I was in high school, browsing the paltry science fiction section of my local movie video rental place. And it wasn't even a Blockbuster, but one of those small independent places before Blockbuster existed. So at the time, that was the best and frankly, the only way to watch sci-fi movies. So anywho, Enemy Mine became one of my favorites. Now, I asked my co-hosts to watch or rewatch it, and we're going to talk about it today. Now, speaking of co-hosts, let me introduce Brian.
Hey, everybody. It's Brian from Ohio. Can I do that over?
Fine.
Hey, everybody. It's Brian from Ohio. That sounded much better. I sounded a little...
From Ohio.
Ohio.
And let's see, we have Steve.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, from the lovely shores of California. We bring you rock and roll and sci-fi.
Excellent, excellent. And Cris.
And it's Cris from Tirana. I got to go to the car.
And
I love it when
Adina.
you say Tirana.
Oh, there you go. It's okay. Well, I'm Adina, and since we're locationizing ourselves, I'm in Maryland. Cold Maryland right now. Yep. And well, because I'm the one holding the communicator tonight, I get first dibs on asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we're going to start, we're talking about Enemy Mine, and we're going to start with just, were you watching this for the first time, or have you already seen the movie?
Mm-hmm.
And what were your first impression and kind of first impressions, if this was the first, or re-impressions, or along those lines? And we'll start with Brian.
Hey, thanks for letting me go first. This is my second time seeing this film. And the first time was when I was a young lad watching it with my father in our living room on TV. And I remember him being excited for me to see it and said it's a very underrated science fiction film that's pretty great. And so I remember watching it. There's parts of this film I remembered as I rewatched it the second time just this week. But there were also some surprises that I'm excited to talk about. And so overall, I really think this film has a lot of heart. It's got a good kind of morality theme, anti-war, anti-racism, and definitely worth watching as a science fiction fan. This has got to be on your list of sci-fi films to watch. So there's my hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Steve.
I saw it when it first came out in 1985 in the theater. And I know I've seen it before, afterwards, since then. But again, watching this weekend, you know what they say about rose-colored glasses? I was wearing them in the anticipation of watching this film. And then I took them off and put my regular glasses on and realized I didn't remember the second half of this film. I remember the first half, the interaction between Drac and Willis. I do not recall the entire story or anything about the baby, the bad guys, and all that. And I realized this is a movie with two distinct parts. And the second half, as even Roger Ebert said, ain't so good.
Interesting. And Cris.
So this was my first time watching it. And this is where I disagree with Steve, because I was enjoying the movie. I liked it. I liked the beginning. I like how they set everything up. I liked a lot of not conversation, but the action between Willis and Drac. And then when the baby came, I was like really invested. And then for me, the third act kind of sealed the deal where I'm like, now I'm like, I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to like fully watch this because I was not expecting that third act. I thought it was going to be, they'll maybe, I can't remember how do you pronounce the kid's name that he was calling him or calling it?
Zombies.
This is not a
Zombies.
Yeah.
Zombies, yes.
Yeah. So I thought it was going to be like Zombies is going to grow up. They're going to get rescued. Everything will be happy. But then when like he dies, I was like, oh, wait, what? And then he gets rescued, and I'm like, okay, good, he's back. I'm surely they're not going to kill him off at that point.
Was your heart not cringing as zombies ran towards the slave ship?
Yeah, it was one of those.
I was like,
okay.
no.
I was like, let me just stay calm. Cool. I'm not going to get too worked up about this. This is a movie. It's 85. It's going to surely have a happy ending. Nothing's going to go bad here. It's going to be fun. and then it's not. And then it's like, what? Okay, there's got to be a twist. And then when he wakes up on the station, I was like, okay, this is good. And I liked all of that stuff. So I felt for me like it was a good movie up until the third act, and then it became a great movie, which even when like obviously the third act is a little bit by the numbers, but for me, because I wasn't expecting it, I enjoyed it a lot more than probably what I'm supposed to.
That's okay. There's no supposed to.
I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to agree with Roger Ebert 100% of the time.
No, you're not. No.
I disagree with him a lot.
Remember, he is a critic, and that's his job.
Was his job.
It was his job.
Oh,
partially. Yes, that's right.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No,
sorry.
now we're old. Now
Too
we're
soon.
Debbie.
Too soon. It's been like a decade, right? Hasn't it
Debbie
been?
Downer. Oh.
Okay.
Notice how I'm not commenting on this, listeners.
Okay. Anywho, so as I mentioned at the beginning, so I'd seen this movie not just in high school, but I wound up at some point buying my own copy of the videotape. That's how much I liked it, and I rewatched it a lot back in between high school and college, and maybe even early after college. But it's been probably 2 decades since I've seen it, at least, and I would say the reasons that I liked the film to begin with, which was the core story and the core interaction between Dawich and Jerry, and then zombies.
Dawich.
You know, that core stuff I feel like still held up, is still really central to the movie, you know, and all that. But then, and I think now it's just because I'm more sensitive to all these other things, and times have changed so much. I was very cringed by all the cringy stuff. Everything from when in the opening, everything in the opening scene, like they're all these very stereotypical, like white male fighter pilots. Okay, there's one token woman, you know, and their language and how they're talking about, you know, that nurse that the one kid likes and all that stuff. It was just, I just was, oh my God.
Her chubby face or whatever.
Can I jump in for a second? It's like you should never, like, if you're taking your dying breath, you should not have to ask your boss to not body shame the person that you're attracted to. That should just be a basic thing. Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that.
But I think this time. Right. And it really shows you how it was a different time. Yeah. Because that was not that it was good, but it was, I'm going to say, expected. Kind of like, I know when I had seen it when I was in high school, it was like, yeah, that's the jerks that guys are. You know, like when they were actually called, like, I feel like I remember having memories of when they were calling her the bad names, saying like, jerks. Why are these jerks calling this woman? Like, there's nothing wrong with her. Why, you know, like, and I'm glad that now society has generally come around to that point of view of, yes, that was wrong. And we, you know, wouldn't do it. But yeah, it was really, that was how things were. So there's a lot of things that a modern viewer right now. And so while I agree, I think this was because of the core nature of the film. Yes, should definitely be something people watch. There is going to be the 1980s cringe factor.
All the way around from, like, and by the way, that token woman at the beginning and the end of the film, Carolyn McCormick in the episode 11001.
Oh, so she is Minuet.
She's Minuet.
Oh, okay.
In that episode of Next Generation.
I was Googling her and I couldn't see her in the credits.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 folks. We just had our first Star Trek episode or reference. We've done our job.
Happy. So also there's a couple things of interest. I found a video online of things you don't know about Enemy Mine or may not have known. It had its issues. It actually had two directors. The first director was not producing anything near what the studio wanted. And then they had to bring in a second director, who
Wolfgang Peterson.
Yes.
What a cool name.
Wolfgang Peterson, who made the greatest World War II film of all time. If you have not seen Das Boot, you have to put 4 hours aside and watch the greatest submarine film you've ever seen. A film that's so good, you're rooting for the Nazis to survive. That's how good this movie is.
I saw the movie as a kid, and I remember they ate an orange. That's it.
Well, he just got off. He was in the middle of making The Never-Ending Story.
Which is also a wonderful film.
So they had to postpone.
I didn't realize he did that.
They had to postpone this production. He wanted to do the film, but part of his contract was they would wait until he was done with The Never-Ending Story. And so, this gentleman, he's directed some really great movies.
A remarkable
Air
director.
Force One.
Yeah, Air Force
Oh,
One.
that's cool. I was just thinking about Air Force One the other day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get off on my plane. Yeah.
You're doing pretty good, Harrison Ford.
Well, because I'm getting close to his age. So.
But anyways, I digress.
I'm sorry about that, folks.
The film had its share of troubles, and it was way over budget. Wolfgang Peterson said, "I need more money to make this film." They filmed for 3 months. That you sent us a video, Dina.
Yeah.
And Gossett said they filmed for 3 months, and almost all of that footage was lost or had to be reshot. It was so bad. And then the makeup was bad and all sorts of stuff. So
what was interesting is in one of Lou Gossett's, one of those little interviews, it was, when they were asking him how he got cast, and some of it was just his willingness to deal with the makeup, which was pretty, intense. And I think, when I was a kid watching this, I didn't have appreciation for really what was all involved in that I do now. And he was saying that even with those like contacts, and he was effectively blind. So that I find that very impressive because again, actors take cues and all these things off of other actors, and to work like that, is pretty impressive. But yeah, his willingness to do that was part of the reason he was cast.
It's very interesting because, Elaine was asking after we watched the movie, she goes, I wonder why they picked Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr. to be in this film. And I realized I went ahead and looked back and I said, Lou Gossett Jr. had just 2 years ago had been in Officer and Gentleman, an acclaimed film.
Yes.
And Dennis Quaid was 2 years ago was in The Right Stuff, an astronaut film. So it was almost like they were at the beginning of the pinnacle of their careers, and like, hey, you want two listers in your film?
They got him.
So they got him, and
well, this was not their first film together either.
Oh, really?
They were in one of the Jaws movies.
Oh,
it was either 2 or 3. Highly acclaimed sequel.
Oh yeah, sure.
I watched
original Jaws film. Not.
We need a bigger, better film. Yeah,
but it was incredible because from what I watched, that they had some sort of chemistry even back then. Like they were familiar with each other, and so yeah.
So I watched parts of Jaws 2 in a hospital with no sound, but Dylan and I were having a ball. It was hilarious.
So is the fact that Randy Quaid is Jack Quaid's dad, Jack Quaid, who plays Boimler in Lower Decks, is that another Star Trek connection officially, or not? That he's the dad, not the actual actor.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's so cool.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that Jack Quaid was related to Dennis Quaid.
Yep.
Right?
Really?
Dennis Quaid.
No.
Yeah. Jack Quaid, who plays Boimler, is Dennis Quaid's son.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Then he also knows about his crazy uncle, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they all related?
Uh-huh.
Is that true?
Oh,
Or is
yes,
that
they
just-
sure. Yeah, Randy. Yeah, Randy Quaid and Dennis are brothers, and one got the looks, and the other one got the crazy. And I know who's got the looks.
I agree. Randy Quaid is definitely the looks for sure.
This is Russell Quaid. This is Russell K. I'm ready for some payback. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, keep it coming. Keep it coming.
All right.
Sorry.
You got some other great questions
Adina,
you've
can
asked.
you get
Okay,
control
well,
of this?
let's see,
Take
let's
over.
see.
Take over. You got the
I think
communicator.
we covered overall impressions.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so I've got some really wacky questions.
Uh-huh. I
You
like
ready
them.
for wacky questions?
Please
Okay,
go
well,
ahead. I
always.
enjoyed them.
because just that are inspired by the fact that what they had to go through, so
Mhm.
that you got these two aliens stranded on a planet. And I know one of I think it was Ebert's criticisms was it that the Drax were portrayed as too human-like, which I think for those of us who are Star Trek fans, we're kind of used to that. We kind of accept that that's going to happen in order to make some of this work, that it's going to be rare to really have a truly alien. So, okay. So yes, it's humanoid-ish, but now imagine being stranded with someone and you had to teach them English.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first word or phrase that you need them to learn or want them to learn?
All right.
Or you're going to teach them anyway, because why
Right.
not?
Right.
Well, I forgot the stranded part of this question when I answered it in my head. Okay.
Okay.
Because if we're talking stuck with an alien in my town,
Mhm.
without a doubt, the phrase they need to learn is quarter pounder with cheese and a Diet Coke. That's what they need to learn if they want to survive.
I agree.
What if they're like vegetarian,
Besides-
like the Vulcans
No.
were?
They have salad options at McDonald's.
Then Impossible
Sure they
Burger.
do.
Impossible
The
Burger. You want to go the Impossible Burger?
No, besides we come in peace. That's
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what.
Okay.
But no, it was stranded. You're
No.
stranded.
I'm
so
stranded
it's
there.
Just, it's just
Let
you.
the
Yeah,
other
you
guys go. I'll think again.
Okay.
And I forgot
Okay.
that part.
For me, it's simple. Friend, not enemy. Establish from the beginning that you have to get together and work together. Otherwise, no one survives. So you have to establish a friendship if you're going to do anything.
Okay. You also did not answer the question, because you
You
were
should.
you're
What's
well
the-
no it's well, but the thing is, the word in and of itself doesn't actually establish the thing. It's just a
Well,
word.
the action, the word, you'd have to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Mm,
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if that
You
was. I don't know
said
if I'm
in-
accepting that
Hey,
answer.
hey,
Alien English. What word or phrase? How did he not
Yeah.
answer
First.
that?
Well, because he went on to describe, he's describing a concept.
Well, but
Not
but
Just
but
what's the
the
But you
words
said-
the words have to be part of the concept. You have to express yourself, that friend, that you have to.
okay?
I mean, go, anyway. go ahead.
Wow.
I know
all
I'm
right.
being harsh tonight.
That's okay. No,
Chris.
Chris, go ahead.
I'm going to say
careful.
And
Walking
hold
on
on,
eggshells.
folks.
I'm gonna
And
go
Chris
get some.
is our alien, or we are aliens to him,
So I would
based
say
on nationality.
Oh, okay.
shelter.
Oh, okay.
Shelter. Ooh,
It's
okay.
the first thing you can get is once you can establish a shelter, then you can figure everything else out. But as long as
Like
you have
that.
a place that you
See,
can.
again, I think you're also not answering the question. Here's the thing: is
Okay,
yes,
see
those
now
are
I'm
important
curious.
things.
Now I'm fascinated by this.
Well, so if I'd
Please
asked the
enlighten me.
question, what do you need to accomplish with your alien counterpart?
Yeah.
Yes, establishing a friendly relationship, establishing shelter. Those are important concepts to do, but
Mhm.
you're just trying to teach them an English word. You guys can establish shelter. You guys can accomplish building shelter together without any language. You guys can
Mhm.
also establish a friendly rapport without language, but you're now trying to teach that person English.
Well,
What's the
remember
first
in the film, Randy Quaid starts yelling at him, "I want to eat. Give me some food." It's like,
food.
Yeah.
yeah, right. Well, how is the alien going to understand when you're yelling at him? Go to Europe. You know how the
Mhm.
ugly American always described as the ones who's yelling at people,
Mhm.
trying to get them a croissant in France.
I would
But
like to read the question as
So
a
what's
team
the correct
posted it.
answer?
If you
Can I call
had
a
to
friend?
teach an alien English, what word or phrase would you want them to learn first?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like based off of what Adina has said she really wanted out of this
Mhm.
question, I fit the bill better than the other two. I just want to put that
A
out
little,
there.
yes. I would say a little bit. Yeah,
But-
yeah.
I would
Well,
dispute this.
We understand, Adina, what you're saying now.
yeah,
But
yeah. Well, because again,
No.
I agree that building shelter is important and
Mhm.
establishing friendly stuff is important. And I agree that yelling at the person is not a great way to do either of those things. But none of that is about actually sitting down and teaching. And again, maybe not sitting down, but just teaching, hey, you need this alien to have a word or two that that they're going to say
like,
in
are you
English.
thinking please and thank you, something like that,
Well,
or
what-
But
So what
that would have
word-
been
what's the
more. That
correct
would have been
answer?
more. Well, there's no correct. Well, there
Oh,
are wrong answers. But
We-
there's no correct answer.
Okay, so don't say you can't claim there's no incorrect answer if they're wrong.
All right.
There's
See,
answering
Chris-
the question
Chris-
I asked, and there's answering questions I
Yeah.
didn't actually ask.
there's something
Okay.
Chris will learn. Steve and I, as married men, we're moving right along. We're used to this situation in our lives.
Well, for
but-
us, the phrase
Hey,
is,
Steve has been
Yeah,
disputing it as much as I have.
and
I want
and
the
Chris,
record to reflect that, please.
and Chris is
This is
as
too
a
much fun. I
soon-to-be
love
married
this.
man,
I'm-
you will remember this phrase, very important.
Uh-oh.
Yes, dear. Just two
I don't know.
words.
Oh
I
man.
don't know
words.
if
You
I want
say
to
that,
respond.
You'll survive. You'll
Oh,
survive.
boy.
How about
Okay.
that worm he ate?
Okay,
That looked really
we're gonna
disgusting.
get into. That's later on.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
done
want to
with
hear
got-
Adina's. Adina, what? Give us
what's
kind of
your
an
phrase?
idea. Yeah, of what
Yeah,
you were
what's-
thinking.
Uh-huh.
So I think I was thinking maybe something along the lines of, screen like a word like danger or something. Because let's say, you're off on this end of the camp working on something, Buddy's off on this end of the camp, and then those
Mhm.
meteors start falling, just danger. It's like something that is going to be clear that needs to be communicated verbally. It's like what needs to be like have clear verbal communication.
Stop.
You can
Go. Maybe
Sure.
maybe just one word. Stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You
what
can
I said,
convey that
I said word
easily,
or
yeah.
phrase.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
So
Things like that.
Defecate over there, not
Poop.
here. Yeah. Go.
Yeah.
latrine. Important
Latrine,
word.
there you go,
That's
there you
right.
Well,
okay.
no, it's important to us. We don't know about an alien.
No,
We
Yeah.
don't know what
yeah.
their situation is. I mean, I'm sure they.
Yeah.
We call it a John.
Everyone
They might
poops.
call it a.
Goznak.
I mean,
Goznak.
whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Let's move on to your next question, which I really
My next
like.
question. Okay.
Yes.
Well, so obviously, Dawich,
That's good.
talks about Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Mickey, and he makes it sound like Mickey Mouse is actually, one of our high deities. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you actually tell an alien species about Mickey Mouse? And actually, at this point, if we were recreating this movie today,
Mm-hmm.
is Mickey Mouse still the right
That
thing
Yeah.
for that thing?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'll explain the reason why.
Mhm.
He would say, Mickey Mouse is a beloved character of humanity, and he has 4 fingers, not 3 or 5, only 4.
Homer Simpson only has 4 fingers too.
That's right. It's
Interesting.
because Walt felt it was less time to draw only 4 fingers than 5.
Was that a Matt Groening's
That's true. Yeah,
excuse
that's
too?
true. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm done.
Okay.
see,
Ryan?
this is. Oh, right.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
See, this is where I struggle with the question because, like, the relevancy thing, I feel like now Mickey Mouse is still relevant, but Mickey Mouse, it's weird. It's not a background character. It's just that everybody knows Mickey Mouse is part of Disney. But I feel like there's so many other bigger Disney characters that it's like thinking about what Mickey Mouse would say, like the way people don't necessarily watch Looney Tunes
Mhm.
anymore. I feel like is where Mickey Mouse is at. People recognize Mickey Mouse, but I don't think he would be the appropriate, like, oh, Mickey, you should know about Mickey Mouse. But I
Mhm.
don't know who would replace that, to be honest.
Bart Simpson.
Bart
Ooh.
Simpson, yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
that
would
can
say, let me introduce you to Shrek.
Ooh.
I like Shrek.
Yeah.
I like me some
Yeah,
Shrek.
me too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or how about
Ah.
Boimler? We'll introduce him to Boimler. They'll become the new future character. Everybody likes Boimler.
Who the heck is Boimler? Boimler.
He's got purple hair. Come on. What else do you want from like kids? All right.
Okay. Yeah, that was not that was not my favorite. Turns out to be not my favorite question.
That's fine.
Not
Go
my
to your
favorite.
How about your next one? Your next one
Okay.
is good.
Okay. So now you were stranded on a planet with someone. So we're
Yeah.
doing the theme of being stranded with people. Okay. So if you're
Okay.
stranded on a planet with someone from another species,
Mm-hmm.
what species would you want that to be? So, think about species from Star Trek, from Star Wars, from anything. So, and I was thinking about if I should add some caveats, like maybe you guys don't, maybe there's no universal translator. So yes, you've got that situation where you don't. So who do you want to be stranded with and you can't communicate with initially?
It's easy for me. I'm going with the Star Trek alien, and I want to be stranded with the Klingon because I think Klingons are also good hunters.
Okay.
So the opportunity to collect food and meat might be very strong with the Klingon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should. So, but you probably don't want to be stranded with them where you guys were just shooting at each other 5 minutes prior.
Mm-hmm.
Because then the Klingon's coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Chris?
my answer, Adina. I don't know.
I know it's
Well,
not your answer, but I know I didn't. But I'm just thinking in the context of the movie. Anyway, they were shooting at each other 5 minutes before they crash landed, and so even though I did not explicitly say it in the question, that's was kind of I think the
okay. Chris,
as long as there's not hand-to-hand combat, I think I might survive.
Okay, Chris.
See, now I'm wondering, but I was going to go with a changeling because they can shapeshift, and I feel like that's got to be a great advantage.
Okay.
Just because they can become things, if there's any animals, they can become that animal and probably take them out. So you don't have to worry about other people hunting you. But then you bring up, I don't want a changeling after me. I'd rather not have that. But you know what? I'm still going to go with that. So I'd rather, you know what? You're probably going to die anyway. You also have I don't know. It's really negative.
Okay.
Changeling could be hugely entertaining in so many different ways.
Right. Yeah. Also, I just think that'd be so cool to see them morph. Like, what a great way to go out if they come at you.
Okay. My choice is an Andorian.
Yes, go for it.
I go with the Andorian because they've got survival skills. They're military. They respect you if you stand up to them, and I think that I would have no problem surviving with an Andorian. Besides, you know how he feels by his end.
They don't try to kill you.
That's a smart answer because
go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, because you're right. Because they don't care about changelings don't like solid. So maybe you're right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yes, as I recall the last words of a certain changeling when she was ejected out into space, what she thinks of us.
Let's not forget here, folks, that these two fellows were mortal enemies.
Right.
They wanted to kill each other.
At first.
And they were at first, and that's what we're assuming happens with our characters as I interact with this Klingon. That you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's the goal, is to be able to work past the differences and hopefully get off the planet.
I think I've got the perfect answer.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Since you came up with a question.
With a betazoid.
No.
Because there I think we have the best chance for working out a way to communicate.
Very good. I
like
that. Yeah.
That when I drop my hostile intent and go into survival mode, they'll know that I'm no longer trying. Yes, ups in space. Maybe I was trying to kill you, but now I'm not. Now we got to survive, and they can intuit that, and then we can start working together.
Okay, are we talking Betazoid, like half Betazoid, like Deanna Troi, where it's all emotions, or are you wanting actual thoughts? Holy crap!
That's pretty smart.
That wouldn't also terrify you a little? That they can hear everything.
But I'm probably already terrified because I'm stranded on this planet and I don't know what the heck's going to happen. So,
but your every thought, though.
Yeah, you don't want to be like the people in that city with little Anthony. Yes, Anthony, it's a very good day today. Yes, that was nice what you did, Anthony. Don't kill me, please. Yes.
That's ruined cornfields for me. It's just because of the willies.
Theory, this isn't, this is hopefully a temporary situation until we can figure out how to get rescued.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's pretty smart. I think, you know what? I think beta, that's probably the best option.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question. Your next question was also really a good one too.
Okay, so this is born out of the fact that the Dracs had this little book, which that was like a little prop that I loved. I love that concept of having, because I love books. So having like a little book on like a necklace, like I always thought that was really cute. So they have a book that they consider sacred. Now, if you had to pick a book to take with you into a survival situation, which would it be?
Any decent camping book, even the Boy Scout handbook, something that would teach you how to make a fire, how to build a shelter, how to survive. That's really it. Or Mad Libs, one or the other. I don't know. Deep interest.
Well, so the thing with the survival thing, and this is going to go into the next question I have, is the problem is so you're on an alien world, and like a Boy Scout modern day Boy Scout survival manuals and all those kinds of books assume you're on planet Earth with the kinds of fauna and flora and animals and resources that would typically be found on Earth. That is not necessarily going to be true on some alien world.
She hasn't liked a single one of our answers so far.
I'm apparently I'm in a mood today.
No, but that's kind of your best response. I think that is true to, everything would be somewhat different. I still say it's a thoughtful answer still.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that was the reason I think I was already prepared to kind of counter his answers. I think that was my original thought too, I was thinking, a survival guide. But then I'm like, but what survival guide is going to help me in that crazy
Nitpicker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Well, I will tell you this. When I was in middle school, we had a teacher, and he used to, on Fridays, he would pose a question he'd ask us. And one of the questions was, what book would you take if you were on a deserted island? And 9 times out of 10, most of the little boys in the school said Playboy.
Oh, geez.
That's not a book. That's a magazine.
I know, but they still wanted to take it. They want to have to.
But nice, I seem to go there tonight. Sorry, folks.
What do you expect for 8th graders? Okay, that's what our answer was. Playboy. Yeah.
I'm going to get a little spiritual. I would say the Bible for me.
Okay.
I mean, Drake had that basically his Bible and spiritual formation book and lineage, whatever, and I thought they handled that. I thought there was one particular scene where he's reciting something and Quaid has got a great moment of acting as he's hearing this and being reverent with it, and interested in it. Yeah. So for me, it would be the Bible because there's tons of stories in it, for one thing. It might help me remember why I want to survive. And give me some inspiration. So
very good.
Okay.
And it's a big old book. It's got a
So you could swack some of the fauna and flora that's after you with it because it's big.
And say, I am smiting you. I am smiting you with this book.
There's no smiting.
Oh, sorry.
Not from this
Chris.
one guy.
Okay, yes. Chris, go ahead.
So Bible's up there. I see. This is where it's hard because I'm learning more about the Bible. I'm going to church with Dill a lot, so I'm like experiencing it for the first time. But if I'm being nostalgic, I'd say I can't decide which. I'm going to say the Philosopher's Stone, of Harry Potter, first one, just because I love those books. I grew up with them, and I feel like I would need a bit of a happy place. And even though it's not Trek, it would still be there because as much as I love Trek, I don't love it in book form the same way I love Harry Potter in book form. So I'd probably say Philosopher's Stone.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. That book has inspired a lot of kids to become readers. So yes, that's a good choice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it did that for me. It's like, all right, now I'm actually into books. They can be cool.
They can be, absolutely. So, I did go down the same path you did, Steve, thinking like, something useful and survivally. And then again, I nixed that for myself. So I got really stuck on this and decided on a final snarky answer. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
I don't mean the fictional book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
Because then I have all the information I need.
With the big words that say don't panic on the front of it. Makes you feel good.
Yes.
Because and all the you're right. All the answers
are in there.
Are right in there. You're right.
So can we just
say
the
it has to be
queue?
a real book.
I love it.
Well, that's Q's not a book. Q's
No, not
person.
a book, but I mean, just for the like, if you're gonna say
Rude.
that, I'd say, well, I'd make Q the alien species you're trapped
That's
with.
what I was just
You
thinking.
could. That's a valid answer.
That's a
although
valid answer.
It's a valid answer. Although technically, I don't think unless the Q has been lost his powers, he's not
How would he
stranded.
be stranded?
Nope,
That's
nope, nope,
good.
nope, nope.
What about the Q from Voyager who was trapped in the asteroid field? Was supposed that asteroid crashed on a planet and Q was there. Oh yeah.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'm not as
Chris
up on my
comes up
Voyager.
with the most obscure
Uh-oh.
reference, and thank you so much. Okay, let's move
Glad
on
you
to the
enjoyed
next
it.
question.
Okay.
Come on,
So-
next question.
Thinking in
Next
the survival theme. Okay.
Mhm.
So does it seem like whatever flight school that Davich went to, like actually had survival training? So they
Mhm.
crash land, and he buries his friend, or his co-pilot or whatever, the navigator, whatever position that guy was, and then he instantly basically goes after revenge and goes after
Mhm.
Jerry,
Mhm.
which is not quite logical because yes, you should be thinking about, you just crashed. You need to be thinking of the survival, not just going after this guy.
Mhm.
Now, because his own ship blew up, in theory, yes, now the other guy has something. So,
Mhm.
but he's driven not by survival, but by revenge.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is like, do we even think that he had any kind of survival training at all? And he didn't seem, and even when he kind of got in with Jerry, he didn't know how to build a shelter. Not really. He didn't seem to really know how to do anything or know what was up or know.
Okay.
He should have some survival training. Like I feel like if you're gonna fly spaceships around the galaxy,
Mhm.
you ought to be trained so well that you're like MacGyver on steroids,
Mhm.
that you can build anything, get into anything, make this work with a few little odds and ends,
Okay.
and so I think that should be the case, that they should know survival training of some kind. And also, I want to say that it was crazy that I think they had to establish more than just what they did in the outer space stuff of how much these two races hated each other,
Mhm.
how these two beings. So I think it was a story plot in typical 80s style
Mhm.
of him practically being crazy out of his
Mhm.
mind
Yeah.
on revenge. I mean, it wasn't just I've got to kill him to survive, or he shot. It was Quaid played it like he was kind of out of his mind
Mhm.
with revenge, not just you killed my brother. It was
Yeah.
crazy way they portrayed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say it's hard because I think ultimately you're right. I don't think he did have survival training. I have to admit though, with the shelter, I was impressed up until it fell apart. I was like, that's actually pretty legit. I don't know that I could build a shelter like that, but then it fell apart. So
Right. He
Mhm.
couldn't die. He couldn't either.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's one of those things where he took it a long time ago, but it's just he's rusty on it. It's like
Mhm.
I don't know how often you take survival
Okay.
training when you're like in the military, but I feel like it's one of those you take it your first year and then you graduate and then you go on, you do your thing for a long time, and then it's like you're a little bit rusty.
I'm
So
gonna
I
have
don't
to
know.
ask some of the military people I know to include my hubby. I'll ask.
Yeah, because I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Now I'm curious too. Yeah.
Interesting is that Apollo astronauts were trained in survival, and they had survival kits on board the Apollo capsules, because if the Apollo capsule landed where it wasn't supposed to, they could survive with the equipment that they had. In this particular film, no. But then they really didn't get into that. And unlike Robinson Crusoe on Mars or even The Martian, they did explain the survival skills that they were taught. You saw the equipment that they had. Even in Robinson Crusoe, he had the audio tapes, the videotapes that showed him how he was to build a shelter, look for portable water, even though, of course, in the movie, they have fun with that. But these two guys, yeah, they had no survival equipment, no survival training, and they should have been dead in a couple of days. More on that
Jerry,
later.
Jerry actually seemed like he had a little bit going
He
on.
did start a fire. Yes, he had a fire
Mhm.
going. So yes, so Jerry maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Willis, like, no, you're right, Brian. He was just bent on, I'm going to kill you. I don't care if I die or not.
Right. You know what Willis had though, and I think this is interesting kind of comparison here is that Jerry the Jock really maybe had some more of the skills.
Mhm.
But Willis was the one with the determination. Like they all through the movie, he kept overcoming, kept working through the hardships, and emotionally, I feel, was driving that team forward to survive. Now, he was just the emotional human, and Drock was a little more reserved.
But I would say though, for we understand the human motivation, we understand the will to survive, we understand the to try and to I want to get rescued and hold out hope. Given that this is an alien species, maybe they don't have anything like that. Maybe it's, from all we know, it is like, okay, crash land. That's it. That's they don't have that. Maybe that's just not part of their DNA. And so at some point when he so he wants to survive, but he's not necessarily. It's like, okay, if they find me, they do. If they don't, they don't, and whatever. And I've made peace with it. And that might be more part of their culture than,
Okay.
I don't know.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. Well, so overall, what do you guys think was the most memorable moment of the film?
So there was two scenes. One of them made me tear up, and I'm trying to, because I know because I was cleaning up my room while I was watching it. And there was a point when Willis is talking to, can you say the kid's name again?
Zamis.
And Zamis is saying, why can't I be like you? I want to be human. And I'm like, let me go throw out some of this stuff. Like, let me go into the other room and put this bag away because I'm trying to tear up. Like, that's the scene that I think will stick with me. Because it's just anytime there's a kid on screen and they're having that kind of conversation, I'm like, oof, okay, this is hitting me.
I thought that was actually some of the best dialogue that did work for a modern audience was in Willis's response was actually a great response. It was very Okay, what else? What else, guys?
For me, it was when Drac and Willis are arguing and Drac starts to laugh in his face. It's just like this was one of the most human moments between the two, that they're finally they're just bonding over humor. And I thought that was really the point where the transition of their characters from being mortal enemies to having to get and figure things out for themselves. And again, the same thing, like I said, building the structure, and Drax just laughs in his face when he sees it all fall apart.
Well, I liked when the time they were arguing and Willis is actually over top of him, choking him.
Oh yeah, that's brutal.
Then the asteroids start to fall because they're just desperate again, and the asteroids start to fall, and Willis he sits back and says, "Are we going crazy?" That whole scene I thought was pretty fantastic. And then I gotta say, just for sentimental value, I loved Willis teaching Zamis how to play football. And when they're kind of doing that stutter step, getting ready to run, that was just fantastic. I thought that.
And when you're all done, you get to eat the ball.
Yeah. I thought that was a great way, that was kind of paired with that discussion. That was kind of in that whole sequence of different scenes with him and Zamis that was just very heartwarming and made you love that little guy and want him to grow up and be happy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think all the things with Zamis, I think was pretty, which was kind of interesting when we started this whole discussion. And Steve, you were saying that you didn't remember like the second half of the film. And to me, I'm like, everything with the kid, that was a lot of the memorable stuff. Incidentally, I looked up the actor who played Zamis. His name is Bumper Robinson, and it seems like he's still active. He does mostly over the years, he's done voice work.
Oh, really?
In a lot of animation and a lot of video games, and it seems like he's still fairly active.
That's
which
good.
is kind of neat to see. Yeah. But yeah, okay. And well, so we talked about the casting a little bit, but do you guys think it was well cast? Do you think Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr., do you think those were the right choices?
I think Lou Gossett Jr. was great in it, and through the makeup, because like the interesting teeth and the eye, he was able to get his expressions across, and he did really well. I give him higher points than Dennis Quaid. I think Dennis Quaid often would overact his scenes or overact his character, but I think Lou Gossett was just straight with his character.
Yeah, Gossett had the harder acting job.
For sure.
And yeah, I think Quaid had. I don't know if I can't imagine this with any other two actors personally, but I think that as far as like at the time. I thought Quaid had his really great moments in this film, and then some, like you say, Steve, over the top.
Yeah.
I was happy with both of them. Like I think Lou Gossett Jr. did an amazing job, and Dennis Quaid's always someone that I don't think he's like the most incredible actor ever, but I always like it when he shows up in a movie. Someone's like, "Hey, cool, it's a Dennis Quaid movie," and he usually does a good job, and I think he did a really good job, and he played the different like levels of like I'm crazy with revenge to all right, we got to work this out to I'm determined to save you. I think all those different like modes are very good.
And again, if you've seen him in the right stuff, he is the flamboyant Mercury astronaut, which he carries over into this.
Okay.
All right.
So of course. Now, Brian, you've trained me to ask about the music and the score of the film. And I actually really noticed it. Like I normally, I know a couple of times I haven't been noticing it as we watch movies, but I noticed it this time. So what do you guys think? And Brian, I'm starting with you. What do you guys think of the music?
I think you noticed it because it wasn't that good.
Okay.
I think it stood out.
Really?
I think it stood out way too much. And the fact that Adina's saying it almost couldn't avoid hearing it is, I think that's a problem for a film score. I think it has to have moments where you go, oh, that's beautiful. And I feel exactly what that music is doing. I think some of the music got a little bit in the way. Now, that being said, I'm going to go back and find the soundtrack and listen to it separately and see what I think. But as far as storytelling, I felt the same thing for me. I'm like, oh, that's I just felt it was okay. Maybe that's a mixing problem too, perhaps. But
a leveling,
a sound, sound issue. But I feel like it did get in the way and didn't really help.
Really,
there was a couple moments where it was nice. I'm not saying it was total garbage by any means, but I think it got in the way too much. It was too noticeable.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go first. I've got some interesting comments.
So polite.
I think so. For me, Canadian. I felt like right.
What's your excuse? No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like halfway through, I noticed it a lot more, and I thought I don't know if it's because I was maybe more engaged with the movie like halfway through, but I thought it was a better. I don't think I don't feel like Brian, where it's just like I didn't like the soundtrack. I thought it was a perfectly good soundtrack. I'm like, okay, that's a good score. Okay. I'd have to listen to it again. Like usually it takes me 3 or 4 times of listening to a score before I'm like, I either hate it or I love it. But I thought, it was perfectly serviceable. That's how I would describe it.
All right. So as Elaine and I are watching it and they get to the scene, it's a beautiful shot scene where they're on a ridge. Their black image against the kind of the orange sky, and the music comes up, and she goes, "Wait a minute, stop! That's the music from Mad Max 3: Beyond Thunderdome." And I went, "Wait a minute, hold on, let me." And we backed up and listened. I said, "Oh my God!" The whole sequence in Mad Max: Beyond Thunderdome when they meet the children. This is almost the exact musical score.
It's not the same composer, is it?
It is the same composer, kids. Yes, it is. And so we stopped the film, we looked it up, we went, oh my God, Maurice Girardi did both films. And you know how music, conductors in various films, you can say, oh, that's a John Barry soundtrack, or that is whatever. And I'm going, this is almost, you go ahead and go find the music from Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome.
It was the same year. Yeah, that was the same year.
Yes, exactly.
That's
just
funny.
like he just reused the music again for another film. But in Mad Max, it's beautiful and it works. To me, it's like, okay, it was a fond memory to that movie.
So I wonder if there's something to maybe like it was really made for Mad Max, but then they wound up using it here too. And that's part of why it's noticeable to me and Brian, where it's like maybe because it wasn't really made for this film.
I don't know. Can I blow your mind for 2 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
We're going to Star Trek territory. Search for Spock and The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. There's a sequence when Peter is first learning how to swing and use all his powers. And you can hear because it's James Horner who did both movies. And you can hear the buildup of music that is in the stealing the Enterprise scene. And there's like maybe 4 or 5 seconds where I'm like, oh, same thing.
Check that out.
Hey, come on.
No, it's always cool when you can like be like, oh yeah, that's this composer. And
hey, come on.
You're right.
When Jurassic Park came out, everybody said, wait a minute, that's the music from what's it? See the dun today in a Chevrolet. Da, da, da. It was the same music at da da dun 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 da dun. Everybody picked up on that. That's really cool. Yeah, though he didn't write the Chevrolet theme, I don't think so. But anyway, but those exactly, almost note for note, there's the same music in both films. Check it out, Brian.
I'm going to. I can't find the Enemy Mine soundtrack on Spotify though.
Yeah.
Well, maybe just go look for the Mad Max one, and there you go. You got the same thing.
Yeah. If you can find Beyond Thunderdome, you'll hear it, and you go, yeah, I see that. But it was very, and Elaine was one who caught it before I did, which was kind of
funny.
That's pretty cool.
All right.
Okay. Well, so now if the film today, if they did a reboot of this film, okay.
Yeah.
Who would you cast for the main characters, and possibly what other changes would you make?
Ooh, can I go first?
You go first because I'd like to rant a little bit after everyone's done.
I'm excited to hear this rant.
Yes, I would like to rant a little bit, but go ahead.
Okay. So I landed on Timothy Chalamet as Willis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And David Ajala as the Drac. And I need to clarify. I went back and forth. I was thinking of various different actors for both roles. And that's just kind of, I think those two would be interesting together.
Okay.
Can I go off of that for a second? Because I been struggling with the concept of casting because there's just so many people I don't know. But since you mentioned David Ajala, how about Ajala as Willis and Doug Jones, who we know works makeup really well as Jerry.
Yeah,
that would work very well.
Although I have a hard time picturing David Ajala in that crazy mode. When he's going after, but maybe that's one of the changes too. Maybe it doesn't happen like that. Maybe he is trying to do survival, but then runs into realizes he needs Jerry's help. Maybe because he realizes Jerry has a ship. Maybe there's some stuff we can scavenge from that to make a communicator or something like that, and then that would work for me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my partial answer.
Okay.
I have other changes to make, but I'll talk about that after.
Okay.
Chris or Steve goes. Steve, you want to go next?
Steve.
Okay. Go. Here goes the ranting.
Okay. Bring it on.
They've already done a reboot of this film. Star Trek Enterprise, the episode Dawn. In 42 minutes, they did everything. The whole sequence of two enemies hating each other, working together, surviving, but they did it in less than 24 hours. So it was short, to the point. And then also the crew of the Enterprise has to work with the alien crew to devise a way of retrieving the two characters, Trip and the alien, the Ascarians or something, I forget the exact name, on the planet. So it's been done. And to me, that episode, fantastic. But
if you
go ahead.
I was gonna say if you're going through the trope of that, Then
Uh-huh.
before Enterprise in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the episode The Enemy, when
Mhm.
LaForge is stranded with a Romulan.
Okay.
It's very
Yeah,
similar
But
too.
that one didn't come. Okay. So anyway, when the author of that episode of Enterprise was done, John Sibin, he was accused of plagiarizing Enemy Mine.
Oh,
Yes.
For
Interesting.
Enterprise?
And
Oh,
something
I'm-
that's fine with me. He did a better job, And as for plagiarizing goes, they plagiarized so much in this film from Robinson Crusoe on Mars. I can't believe it.
Mhm.
Crash landing on an alien planet that is totally inhospitable, with no life what to be ever seen. You would meet an alien and a human come together, working together. There's a snowstorm in the film. There is a meteor shower in Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Ultimately, they're saved by the humans at the end of the film. You didn't have a baby in it, but you had a monkey called Mona, and she was pretty darn good in that film. And also for additional plagiarizing, hey kids, that creature that was in the sand pit with the tentacle that came out? Was that the Sarlacc from Empire
Wars.
Strikes Back?
Yeah.
But didn't they
Because
also
it sure
get that?
was.
But didn't they also get that from Dune?
Yeah, well, yes, and also, remember they said that George Lucas stole a lot from Dune to make Star
Yeah.
Wars, and just think about it: when that creature grabbed Willis's leg and cut into it and did that, Adina, don't you think that whatever bacteria was on that creature probably would have killed Willis in a very short period of time without?
Well, that's why they had
Hannah
to they
beyond-
took the thing and they had to burn all the, that's why they cauterized it and did all that.
And then again, when you mentioned earlier about
Yeah.
eating the worm,
Well,
you
they
think that
should
Willis
never have
is-
survived any of those meteor
Yeah,
showers. I mean, like
yeah,
there's
they-
a thousand. Yes, they
Yeah,
should not
yeah.
have survived this. for
No,
sure.
and eating that weird food, the
Mhm.
little green blub or the worm. What do you think it did to Willis's digestive tract?
Mhm. Yeah.
Not really good. So that was, and again, they use that in Robinson Crusoe where he eats the weird stew and he gets sick. So I just feel like I think that Enterprise did, or even the episode you mentioned from TNG, probably did
Mhm.
a better job of portraying that storyline in a
Mhm.
short period of time.
I think there's something
I'm
to be
done.
said about, like, we just are for in between. We wrote flash stories, and there's something to be said for getting to the point.
Yeah.
And this film does take a while. Like you asked about, are there any changes you would make? I would not spend as much time on the planet with just Drake and Willis. I would have tried to shorten that up a little bit. And also the bad guys who were holding the slaves, that was extremely over the top 80s villainish.
Also
they
taken
were.
from
Trail,
Robinson
like,
Yeah.
Crusoe on Mars.
Just terrible, over the top villainy and acting, which they were directed.
RoboCop.
I mean, it's all
It's very
directed.
RoboCop.
I enjoyed
yes.
how terrible they were.
Yeah. And the villain guy was from Blade Runner. He was one
Right.
of it's good.
Mhm.
It's time to die. He was the
Yep.
bad guy in that.
What about you, Chris? You said, who would you recast? Or
So this is a weird one. Bear with me. I've been watching a lot of Bones, but I'd say for Willis, I'm going to go with TJ Thine because he does a good job of playing like the smart scientist. He could like aspects of like, hey, we got to survive. He does a really good job of that. He plays understanding very well, but he also does crazy pretty good when he's
Mhm.
like, when there's episodes where he's going through something or
Mhm.
something really significant where he's like, we got to figure this out. Like, we can't let this person go. So I'd pick him because, like, again, Bones is on my mind. We're on like season 8 now, so we're working through that.
Yeah.
And then for the Drac, this is a cheap one. Maybe this isn't too much of a cheat, but Tony Todd. I feel like you can't go wrong with Tony Todd in makeup
yeah,
because he
Tony
has such a
Todd.
good voice. The only issue would
he
be is
played
that
he played Worf's brother in The Next Generation.
Oh,
he played
okay.
Worf's brother.
And he played
He was in
Cisco's
Arrow.
adult son in
Yep,
Deep Space
he
Nine.
is now in the new Spider-Man game as Venom. So I just feel like he has that gravitas. The only thing that might detract is that he's Tony Todd, and he might be a little distracting because you're like, oh my gosh, it's Tony Todd. But I feel like you
in
can't go wrong.
makeup, I feel like again, there's
Yeah.
at the time Enemy Mine came out, it's like, oh my God, it's Lou Gossett Jr.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
so Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, you know what? Yeah, then
okay.
I'll stick with
I'll
Tony
take
Todd.
Tony Todd. Yeah.
In
I like
terms
that
of
choice.
changes, so there's two things. One, I feel like it'd be very difficult to remake this movie because I feel like it's a concept we've seen a lot, and like other shows have done that, and so I don't feel like that's a fresh idea. I will say with the David Caruso, sorry, Robinson Crusoe on Mars, I felt like there's definitely elements of that, but for me personally, I enjoyed this a lot more. So I felt like they took some of those elements, made them more interesting. But like, let's say the studio was already like, we're doing it. You don't have a say. This is the storyline. I'd say you got to tighten up the pacing. Like, I appreciate they only did 100, like an hour and 40 minutes, where I feel like now if the movie was made, it would be a 3-hour movie.
Oh, no.
But I think you really got to, like, I don't think you should do it.
I
But I
think
feel like
this film, I think it felt long at an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah, definitely felt long. I'm not
agree
saying,
with you, Brian. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it should be 3 hours. I just feel like studios have a tendency now to make everything 2.5 hours. But I would really urge them to like make it a lot shorter. I would say tighten some things up, maybe. But this is where I struggle, because the film felt like it was longer than an hour and 40 minutes. But I felt like they got to him understanding that he needs to work with this guy a lot quicker than what I was expecting. But then there was a lot of slow parts in the middle. So I don't know how you would tighten up the pacing, but I feel like the pacing would be the number one issue. The bad guys I enjoyed. I love how over the top they were. I just loved how like every single miner who were like, they're not even trying to, well, I don't think they set out to be evil, but it's like in that moment, like, how evil can we be? And it's just like so extreme. It's ridiculous, but it's like, it's fun, even though maybe it's not the right movie for that. Because it's like meant to be a serious, thought-provoking film, and it maybe detract.
Okay, let me ask one question. What did you guys think of the special effects in this film for 1985?
Yeah,
they seemed very Japanese 1960s quality. The spacecraft, the effects, the suits, the things like that. It seemed like they really didn't. Well, again, they didn't invest a lot in that, really, as much as I thought for a 1980s film compared to what James Cameron did or George Lucas did with their special effects.
Well, that's the thing, is I think that just budgetary wise, just comparison, given looking at what was spent on this, it makes sense. You know, it's not. You know.
Yeah. I think it was fine. The sets are still around. Did you guys know that?
No, where are they?
I don't know where they're located, but a special I watched said that a music band just recently actually used the sets for their music video, a well-known band, and that you can actually go tour these things.
Where did they shoot this film? I mean, because the desolateness of it was...
Oh, it's overseas somewhere.
Okay,
North America.
Okay.
It probably says if we looked it up.
Yeah, I missed that at the end, watching the credits. I
think the same studios that Peterson directed Neverending Story.
It was made in Germany. So maybe the film should have been Enemy, MEIN. Mine.
Mine.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
There's your German language joke of the day.
There we go.
Thank you.
So that, everyone, I think that kind of sums up all the questions that I had. So, Cosmic Adventurers, that's going to wrap up our interstellar safari through the 1985 classic Enemy Mine. Now, I'd say it's been a 5-star journey, unlike the Yelp reviews Davich and Jerry would give their stranded planet. If you like that,
I do like that.
If you've got thoughts on impossible friendships or survival etiquette or alien roommates, then beam them over to us at the Big Sci-Fi Podcast at gmail.com. And as always, a big thanks to you, our fabulous listeners, for continuing to join us on our journey from one end of the sci-fi universe to the other. Before we sign off, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because remember, in space, no one can hear you podcast.
Oh, that was good.
Okay.
That's a reference.
Until our next cosmic rendezvous, please keep those phasers on fun, treat each other kindly, and may your own enemy mind turn into a friend of ours. So remember, we're part of the Trek Geeks podcast network, so make sure to explore trekgeeks.com for more Trektacular content. And then come see all of us at Trek Long Island next May. And by all of us, I mean Trek Geeks, us, Sci-Fi Sisters, might be some other podcasts there. I don't know yet.
Mhm.
So live long and prosper, everyone. And don't miss the next grand episode of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast.